Okay, other signs that we have, I'm just going to go off and start listing different signs that we have. So this one, as you can imagine, this one was lane control, right? And so sometimes they're usually on black background, but sometimes they can look like this too, where they're on a white background with a black arrow. So this just means lane control. And what it means is from that lane, you can either go straight through that lane or you can turn left. So be mindful. Usually when arrows, any kind of arrows you have are directional in letting you know where to go. And those can even be, those arrows can also be painted on the road as well. But it's really important to look at both. As the guy in the video mentioned, sometimes the ones on the road can be faded or they're covered, like in the winter, there's a lot of snow, you can't see the ones on the pavement. So it's really important to pay attention to what the sign is telling you and if you're in the right lane to make the proper turn. So here's another one about arrows, but with that little block in the center, it means that there's a divider ahead. So those you will usually see on highways. It could be where it's a, you have oncoming traffic going both ways on a highway, but then you see coming up that it's going to be divided. There's going to be a meridian in between you guys, and it's coming up. So it's important to note those because usually the speed limits can change in those. They can either go up higher or you might need to move over a little bit to accommodate for that divider. This one is a one-way sign. So obviously, as it says, one way, traffic is only allowed to go that way. So say you're at an intersection facing this one way and it's pointed over to the right, that means you can't go left because all the traffic is going to be going against you. You're going to be going against traffic. And that can be a pretty hefty fine. I think it's around like $300 if you're caught on a one-way and some demerit points. So always pay attention. A lot of those in Calgary, there's a lot of one-ways. And even here in the city, once in a while, they're not very common, but once in a while you can see these one-ways, especially around White Ave. There's a lot of these one-way streets, so be mindful to make sure that you're turning in the right direction for that one-way and not coming into oncoming traffic. Do not pass, as it says, don't pass. If it's telling you you're not allowed to pass in that area, then don't do it. They're doing that for your safety. The reason why they give you passing and no passing zones is to make sure that drivers can do it safely so that they have enough visibility and enough space to be able to pass other vehicles in a safe manner. This sign looks like a speed limit sign, right? But it doesn't say maximum 50 there. It actually has an arrow. So what that means is that say you're going 60, you're in a 60 zone and everything's good. What this sign is telling you is that up ahead of you, the speed limit's going to change. So it's going to reduce down to 50. So prepare for that and start slowing your vehicle down. So there's usually when you get on the road, there's tons of signs everywhere, but most of them are ahead. They give you enough notice so that you can plan and adjust your driving to the area that you're in. So be mindful. If that comes up on the test, that doesn't mean the maximum is 50 in your area. It means the maximum is 50 up ahead of you and to prepare for that. So 50 ahead. More signs, as he talked about, the yield sign as an upside down triangle. You will see those yields. And what a yield is you don't have to come to a complete stop. So like stop signs, you have to come up to that stop sign with your vehicle, come to a full stop for a minimum of 3 seconds. So they usually, and that's not like stop, 1, 2, 3, go, or like a rolling stop where your vehicle doesn't totally stop and you're still kind of rolling. Those are called rolling stops. Those are not stops. For a full stop, you have to come up to the intersection or the stop line and you have to count a full 3 seconds. So like 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. And then you can proceed through if it's safe, either straight or turning right. But a yield is a little bit different where that one is kind of more of that slowing down the vehicle. You don't have to come to a full stop at a yield, but you definitely need to decelerate your vehicle. You definitely want to put on the brake a little bit, slow down, and you have to look around. So those yields, you will almost 100% see them at intersections. So as you're approaching a yield, the intent is that you don't have to come to a full stop. So say that you come up to the intersection, everything's clear, there's no pedestrians, you don't see any other vehicles, everything seems good. After you slow down and you check all directions, then you're able to just go straight ahead or turn, whatever it is. But say you're coming up to an intersection and you see that there's a cyclist coming, you would definitely need to slow down, and say he's ready to cross the road, that cyclist, you would be required to come to a full stop, and you're only allowed to go forward through that intersection once it's clear. So that's a bit of the difference of stopping. You have to come to a full, complete stop, whereas a yield, you can just slow down a little bit, but you can still only proceed through that intersection when it is clear and safe to do so. This is a do not enter sign. So you will usually see these sometimes on dead ends. It'll say like do not enter, not permitted, or dead end. So sometimes they put these do not enter at dead ends because there's no point. If you're trying to drive through, you're not going to get through. You're just going to end up nowhere. So also they might have this on like private property. Say there's like a commercial development and they only let their commercial trucks through or something like that. You don't want to be stuck in there. Or buses, like here in the city, Edmonton or other urban centers, you'll often see that do not enter because only the transit buses are allowed in that area. You don't want to be driving around in unrestricted areas or areas where it's not really designated for vehicles. So be mindful of those signs and where they're posted, because you can get fines for being in those areas as well. This one I had mentioned, this is a no U-turn. So you can see it's the not permitted sign or prohibitive sign. And then in there, there's that U-turn shape. So that's saying at this intersection or on this roadway or in an alleyway, you might see those, you are not allowed to do U-turns in this area. This one's the no parking sign. I kind of talked a little bit about that. You'll often see them in busy areas or in front of businesses. So be mindful, don't get caught parking in a no parking sign, because there's a reason why it's no parking. It could be that it's being reserved for a handicap spot. It could be that it's in a major roadway during rush hour, or it could be that it's only permitted for commercial vehicles, or it could be that they're not letting people park there because it's really close to another intersection and you could be obstructing the view from other drivers. Or it could be like a bike lane. That's a reserved lane for cyclists. So you wouldn't want to park in there because then you're going to obstruct cyclists and they're going to have to go around your vehicle and they're going to have to put themselves in dangerous way of traffic driving by. So definitely really important to know about those no parking signs. Anytime you see a P in there, that means either parking is permitted or not permitted. This one is a no left-hand turns. So you can see the arrow is pointing to the left and it's saying that you are not allowed to turn left here at this sign. Sometimes you'll see this where it'll say no left-hand turns, and then underneath it'll have specific hours or times. So from 9 a.m. or no, say from like 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., you're not allowed to turn left. But if you're outside of those hours, you're allowed. Again, that's to accommodate for rush hour and busy times during the day. There's also a thing where at the bottom here in Edmonton, you would see ETS or transit on the corner. That means that drivers are not allowed to turn left. However, a bus may be allowed to turn left because that's the way its route is set up. So sometimes the city of Edmonton or another municipality, they can make certain specifications of which vehicles can go left and which ones can't, usually to accommodate for public transit. And then, as I mentioned, the stop sign. That one's the most common. We know a lot about that. And I kind of went into detail about what a stop sign actually means. Stopping, coming to a full stop for 3 seconds, and only going once you're free and able to do so, and if you have the right of way. So on the next chapter, we'll talk more about what is the right of way and who has the right of way. This sign means that there's a curve ahead. So you see how this one's a little different. It's not a lane control like we were talking about, where it's saying you can go right-hand turn. It's not saying that. It's because it's on that yellow warning sign, it's actually just warning you that there's a curve in the road. It's not saying you must turn right up here in this lane. It's actually just saying up ahead the road might turn a little bit, and to prepare for that, especially in challenging weather conditions. Say it's winter and it's really icy, you might want to slow down before you hit that curb. Or if you're driving at really high speeds and you're beside another vehicle, you guys both might want to slow down and adjust your speed for that curve to make sure that to avoid a collision with each other. So this is different than the lane change control, which is the black background and a rectangle. This one is that diagonal or diamond shape with a yellow background. That's just warning you and helping you, giving you a heads up of what's ahead, and to prepare and adjust your driving to whatever condition or upcoming obstruction or challenge might be coming up on the road ahead. So this one does mean single turn right. So this one, usually it's not designating the lane, but it's saying, warning, you know, if you're in this lane, everyone's going to be, you have to turn right. There's no going through. So usually you'll just see this as giving you a heads up that you're going to be entering into a turning only lane. This one, the windy one, means there's like windy road up ahead, or the road's going to curve a little bit. So again, just like the curve ahead, it's just letting you know that the road ahead, for a while, there's going to be some curves around there. So maybe don't try to speed up and speed through it. You might want to adjust your speed and go down a little bit while you're entering those curves. And it's going to be for a little while. This one means merging traffic. So as you can see, there's like a bigger, thicker arrow, and then like a smaller arrow coming into that. That means merging. And we're going to talk about exactly more details in the next chapter about what merging is and how to do it. But to be mindful that this is the sign for merging. As you can see, it's usually where other vehicles are coming in from a smaller roadway into a larger highway. You'll mostly see these on highways, but you can see it in other roads in urban centers and stuff as well. So just to be mindful, like when you're coming off of or into ramps and off ramps, just be prepared that you're going to be having to do the merging maneuver and integrate yourself into traffic. So again, these are all the warning signs. There can be more. There's a lot more within your book when you go to it. There's probably a few pages, of different warnings. They can also have a speed limit underneath there as well. So there can be a combination of different signs as well. This is on page 33. If you flip there, these are all these warning signs, and they can put them together. So they could say, hey, there's a stop sign up ahead, and there's going to be a curve in the road, and the speed limit's going to drop to 85. So it's sometimes you might just see a single sign on its own, but there's oftentimes that you'll see multiple signs either combined together or, you know, one after the other as you're driving. So there's a lot of information you got to take in from these signs, and you really got to understand what you're doing, what you're intending to do, which route that's why it's really important to plan out your route ahead of time. If you're using like a GPS system or something, it's really helpful to prepare well in advance of you know that you got to be turning or getting over, especially in larger intersections. It just helps bring your stress level down and helps you plan ahead when you know which way you're going, and then you pay attention to all these signs so that you can make all your maneuvers and get to your route safely. Some more signs. This means that there's a divided highway begins. So as I mentioned before, it's similar to that other one, but they added an extra arrow. So that's showing you that you're going from traffic coming both ways, and the driving highway is going to begin. There's also a reverse of that where it can be flipped the other way, where the divider is on the bottom and you're leaving. That means your divided highway is ending. This one means two-way traffic. So as you can see, it's that broken line and arrows in opposite directions. That is showing you that you're going to be going opposite of traffic. So that's really important for you to know as you're as you're planning your routes, and make sure that you can plan out when it's safe to pass, if you're in a no passing zone or not. It's important to know if you're traveling in opposite ways of traffic. Another sign here we got is, this is, oh, you can see there's 2 lanes at one point, and then that lane on the right hand side is ending. So that means lane ends or the loss of the right lane. So if you're in that far right lane and you see the sign, you know that your lane's going to end soon. And oftentimes it'll tell you how much time you have. It'll say, 10 kilometers ahead, or 2 kilometers. It tells you how much time you have to move over to the left lane, but it helps you to prepare that the lane's going to end. So it's a little different than merging. It's not quite merging. It's that you're already merged with traffic, but now your lane's going to end, so you might need to merge over to the other lane. But if you pick merge on the test, it wouldn't be correct. You would have to say lane ends, or right lane ending, or loss of a right lane. Could be any of those ways that they word it on the test. So be mindful, even though the action may be that the result of that is that you have to merge, the correct answer would be the lane ends. Oh, here's that one where I talked about different pavement. So it's saying that the pavement's going to end. So you'll likely see these in, you could see it in construction zones, or you could just see it in rural, most of the time in rural roads. You'll see where everything's paved and everything's nice and good, and then all of a sudden you're going into the unpaved road. Either they haven't done construction there, or they've just left it in a rural area, right? So that's when you're hitting like a dirt road or gravel road. So definitely be mindful of those. You don't want to be going 100 from the paved road and then hit that loose shale, because that'll put you in a dangerous situation of skids. So always be mindful. You definitely want to reduce your speed whenever you hit that. Also, when you go from paved road down, there's usually a bit of a bump there, so you don't want to scrape your vehicle or anything like that. You want to try to get into that changing of the road in a slow way. So yeah, you'll often see those in construction zones where you have to slow down, you go through some gravel, and then you'll end up back on pavement again. But be mindful. It might also tell you how long you have the unpaved road. It'll say, for the next 20 kilometers, it's unpaved. So then you know that you're not going to be doing that slower for too long, but just to get through the gravel, and then you'll be back on pavement again. This one means a narrow passage is what it's called, but oftentimes it's symbolizing that there's a bridge up ahead. So as you can see, it's not a loss of the lane. So it's different from, it's not that you're losing a lane. It's just that you're going from maybe 2 wider roads to 2 skinnier roads. So to be mindful, they could either just have roads that are skinnier, but most of the time, a lot of the times, this is symbolizing that there's a bridge up ahead, so that your roadway is going to be a little bit narrow. So definitely, again, adjust to that. Oftentimes you would want to slow down as you enter into that narrow passageway. Just make sure you have good control of your vehicle and you're spaced nice and center in the middle, especially if there's another vehicle coming and you guys are both having to squeeze through that narrow passageway. The best thing to do is just slow down to where you're comfortable so that you guys can safely pass each other through that narrow passageway. And then it's showing you that it's going to open back up again. But it could say narrow and then stay narrow. You could just be losing where you used to have a nice wide divided highway, and then now you're going on to a skinnier highway. That could be a possibility as well. But most times it's usually symbolizing a bridge. Bump ahead, so that's just showing you that there could either be speed bumps or it could just be a really bumpy road up ahead. I've seen those too, where it'll say bumpy road and it'll ask you to reduce your speed down to like 60 or something like that. And those are really important also for commercial trucks, ones that have maybe a trailer on the back. If they're coming into some rough bumpy roads, they definitely want to slow down to make sure that they're not disrupting their cargo or potentially bouncing around the trailer or potentially causing damage to their vehicle. So those are really important also for yourself. I mean, if you have a really low vehicle and you're heading into some bumps, you definitely want to slow down because you don't want to, potentially cause any damage to your vehicle. And then this one, it does have a stop sign, but again, with that arrow on top, it's telling you that there's a stop sign coming up ahead. So to prepare for that, you would want to just make sure that you're going to be stopping. And you'll often see these again on highways, less likely in the urban centers because you're usually traveling slower. But when you're doing 100 on a highway, and you have a stop sign coming up, you need a lot of room to stop. So you need quite a little bit to slow your vehicle down and come to a full stop. You can't just slam on the brakes and stop on a dime. It doesn't work that way. So that's why they add these warning signals up ahead so that you can slow down and prepare to stop. Or it could be that the stop sign is maybe hidden behind a tree or like over a hill. You can't quite see it. So again, these signs are really important to give you information up ahead well in advance so that you can prepare to do your maneuvers safely. Okay, more signs. We're getting through them though, trust me. This might be a little bit funner than learning them all on your own, but this one, we're going into those construction signs, remember? So this one means it's construction because it's orange. You know for sure you're getting into a construction zone, but it's also telling you that the road is closed ahead. So you'll often see this when they're doing road construction. So now you know, oh shoot, I can't go through there. You had GPS, Google told you that you could go through that road, but that sign's telling you that right now, today it's closed. So now, sometimes Google isn't very up to date with all the construction and which roads are open or not. So you can't always just rely on Google. You got to also pay attention to what the road's telling you and what the signs are saying. So they will often have these, on temporary signs or posted up on those wooden blocks and things like that. So these are, you could have been there yesterday and you're like, what, this road wasn't closed yesterday, but today it is, because the construction workers are working on it now. So just be mindful, you ain't going through that road. You're going to have to either find an alternate route or turn back around and try again another day. This one means, this again is construction, and it means that there's a flag person present. So what it's telling you is, hey, there's a flag person up ahead, and that flag person is going to tell you what you need to do. So the flag person, they can either have flags, but oftentimes they will have signs themselves, and they're switching. They're controlling traffic from both ways. So say you're in a construction zone where there's only one lane that vehicles can go down, but there's vehicles coming from both directions that need to use that one lane. That's when you'll have a flag person oftentimes putting a stop sign up there, so everyone needs to wait while the other traffic comes through, and then they'll switch it and tell you that you can proceed ahead, or they can just have signs that say slow down or reduce speed. They can have signs that say yield to oncoming traffic, or they could have a flag stopping traffic completely because there's a big truck, a hauling truck bringing in materials or trying to leave the construction site. So you need to be mindful that one, A, there's a flag person, but B, there's also, you need to pay attention to what that flag person's telling you while you're in that zone. Another one is people working. So that one's really key because they're really big on construction safety, right? Like when there's construction workers out there, especially on busy highways like Anthony Henday and things like that, there's cars are going by at really, really high speeds. So they show you that people are working or that workers are present in order for their safety. You wouldn't ever want to be in a situation where you were flying through an intersection, you didn't pay attention, or you were flying through the roadway in a construction zone, and God forbid you were to hit somebody. That would be devastating. So that's oftentimes pay attention to whether people are actively working there or if it's a construction site that's kind of closed at the time, things like that. But no matter what, you need to follow those speed limits. But they just they help you be mindful and look ahead to make sure that you don't have people potentially, driving right side by side at really high speeds and things like that. And as the guy in the video also mentioned, speed fines within construction zone, those double. So say the speeding fine in an area was like $250. If you're caught speeding within a construction zone, even if it's 10 or 11 kilometers over that posted speed sign in that construction zone, that $250 ticket is now becoming a $500 ticket. So they take those really seriously, and that's for everybody's safety, right? In construction zones. So really be mindful of just slow down in those construction zones and make sure that you know that what's around you and what's going on in that construction zone and for how long. Here's another one, a survey crew ahead. So maybe there's not some active construction going on the road. Maybe the road's fine and everything's going good, but this sign is showing you that there could be surveyors really close to the road taking measurements and things like that. And they're not necessarily paying attention to all the cars going by. They could be distracted trying to do their work as a surveyor. So that's where you need to be a responsible driver and make sure that you're paying attention to everybody and all the active work that's going on the road.